So NASA's stance has always been, there's nothing to see here, there are no images of any UFOs, or nobody's reported anything whatsoever, and now we're getting actual images of UAP from NASA, so clearly they have been lying through their teeth, which is unsurprising to some of us, but it's nice to see it publicly acknowledged. That shock, that change needs to be very, very carefully managed. So I think it's being walked forward very, very slowly. But I think we are seeing that needle shifting. And each tranche shifts it a bit further and a bit further and a bit further.
Aren't they walking it forward so slowly that people, when the next tranche comes out, people are just going to start saying, well, actually, there's probably nothing in there that I haven't already seen. Just more lights in the sky. Let me know when you actually got something different.
So here we are in 2026. The US government are releasing UFO files that state over and over and over again that there are things in the sky, objects, manoeuvring in a way that appears to have intelligent control behind them, manoeuvring with abilities that our technology can't touch.
Are they actually saying that? The US government are saying...
They're not saying it directly, but when you read the report and it says, here is how it manoeuvred,
Hello and welcome to Aliens Explored, your weekly look at the mysterious skies which sometimes dip underneath our mysterious seas and cause all sorts of upset and kerfuffle here on land. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. The sky's dipping under the seas.
Well, we see all sorts of, what do they call it? Transmedium dots of light.
Absolutely. So yes, interesting. Transmedium vehicles. You were almost there with it, but you don't want to say that, do you?
Couldn't quite bring myself to say vehicle.
Well, in that respect, you are, I feel, somewhat behind the US government, because we have had, of course, the fourth tranche of files released.
When you say I'm behind the US, when you say I'm behind the US government, you mean like a puppet master manipulating all the?
That's a thought. That's definitely a thought. But no,
sorry, I talked over you while you were saying that something really important.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's the fourth tranche of files released, and I recently put out a video on the channel showing all the video evidence. So I'll put a link. It'd be up there.
Thank you
for put a link in for people. Yeah.
Thank you for editing them all together and sending it to me. And also, it's nice that it's set to music. Did you add that in, or did the US government actually provide the soundtrack?
Well, that is us, and the music is actually from Darren Mafucci, our friend Darren.
Okay.
Who is the composer behind our theme music, of course, Searching for Monsters.
Shout out to Darren Mafucci and Searching for Monsters.
Shout out, absolutely. And it's all the music from the same album.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very, very soothing and very appropriate for watching these.
I felt it had that kind of mysterious edge to it. So yeah.
I think our viewers will enjoy it.
That's it. So, fourth tranche of files released under Pursue. There were 40 files in total. I think 19 videos, 3 audio files, and 2 images, and the rest were PDFs, files, basically. Files.
Okay.
Pursue, I know you asked me this off air. Pursue stands for the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. And this is what I mean by you're kind of behind the US government, in that they are saying, yes, there are these transmedium things happening, and yeah. Some of the reports do mention, physical objects. So I think, we're right on the verge with craft.
So do you think these releases are getting progressively more revealing. That, if I wasn't quite convinced with tranches 1, 2 and 3 that release of tranche 4 will bring me a bit closer. Oh, I get it now. Yeah, now I see where I've... Are we any closer? Because it didn't look like anything new, really.
Well, it's a great question, and I want to answer that as best as I can, because I think the answer is a bit yes and a bit no. I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't. There's nothing. There's no smoking gun in there. There's nothing that says it's all absolutely true. We've been back engineering UFOs and flying saucers, and there's no 4K footage of any flying discs or like in my picture here.
That's a nice. But that would do it for me.
It's a nice picture, that, isn't it? That's the image that Bob Lazar says was on the wall of S4, where he worked on back engineering the flying disc. Was a picture of the flying disc itself hovering, and they're here written underneath it.
Did they actually create a flying disc? I mean, I can see how it'd be possible.
He doesn't know where it came from, but he believes that it was found, basically, or obtained.
I'm sure I've seen a drone that looks like that. It's got some sort of rotating impeller.
Yes, there's a similar sort of thing. We'll come on to that. Do you know what? That's a good thing for a future episode to look at, because it is moving away from our topic today.
So commercially available flying saucers that you can own and fly yourself.
Well, interestingly, one of the files, they don't talk about flying saucers being man-made, but they do talk about flying wings. Now, I have to remind myself which this would be. Yes, this would be DOW UAP D094, the analysis of flying objects incidents in the United States, Air Intelligence Study number 203. And they actually they have some images as part of, I'll put them up on screen. They have some images of man-made vehicles that could be seen as flying wings or that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Really, really interesting. So yeah, you were asking, like, is the evidence sort of getting better? I think the fact that each of the tranches we have had evidence, we've had files from different departments. So, for example, in Tranche 3, we started getting FBI and CIA evidence. In this tranche, in Tranche 4, we're finally we're always getting from the DOW, Department of War, which is not its real name, by the way. It's really the Department of Defense. Only Congress can rename it.
Oh, so it's just Pete Hegseth winging it, saying we're going to call it from the Department of War from now on, but actually nothing's
Donald
official.
Trump has done an executive order that allows people to call it the Department of War, but it's actually technically the Department of Defense.
Because it was the War Department, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then became the Department of Defense. In the 1960s or so, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that sounds about right. But yeah, it's still technically the Department of Defense, but they call it the Department of War because that's very frat bro. Hey bro, hey.
Yeah, well, we didn't used to be quite quite so coy. I mean, a lot of our viewers might have heard of the Profumo scandal. John Profumo, who was the Minister for War back in 1963, was found to be sharing a call girl, Christine Keeler, with a Russian who was probably a KGB officer. And it brought down the Tory government in 1960. The scandal was in 63, wasn't it? And eventually there was a general election in 64, and it brought them down. And sometime in the 60s, we then became the Ministry of Defence. But everyone's defence now, because that's pretty much the only legal reason to go to war. You have to cite some kind of threat that you're defending yourself against. The America and Israel are currently defending themselves against a threat from Iran, which and I think where all that started. Do you know how to say defense force in German?
No, but I'm sure you can.
It's a word you'll know. It's Wehrmacht.
Wehrmacht. Right, yeah.
Defense force.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they were the first with that idea.
Okay. So, Wehrmachting is veering us straight back onto the pursuit files. So the fact that in the fourth tranche we've now got files from the Department of Energy, which is very telling because it's long been rumoured that the Department of Energy have been one of the big gatekeepers of UFO technology, of back engineering, things like that. And interestingly, I found this really interesting, now NASA as well. So NASA's stance has always been, there's nothing to see here. There are no images of any UFOs, or nobody's reported anything whatsoever. And now we're getting actual images of UAP from NASA. So clearly they have been lying through their teeth, which is unsurprising to some of us, but it's nice to see it publicly acknowledged.
Or perhaps they've just shifted their stance, saying, well, no, there's no evidence of alien visitors or UAPs, but yeah, we have got this footage of some lights in the sky. We don't know what it is, so yeah, I suppose that counts as a UAP.
Well, interestingly, one of the ways in which, and when you hear the language that a lot of these departments use when making claims that they have nothing, they will say specifically things like, we have found no evidence of any little green man. Okay, yes. That's not the question. You get that in British politics as well.
Well, any politics.
A politician asked a question and they will answer. They won't answer the question they've been asked. They'll answer the question that they want to be asked.
Yes, I think. Well, I think what the public really want to know is, what am I going to do about immigration or whatever? That's how you do politics, isn't it? You basically go on to say whatever you've come to say and field any other questions.
But I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to answer your question as best I can, and we keep going off tangents as we do here at Aliens Explored. But yeah, so I would say the fourth tranche and each of the tranches have moved the needle. No, they've not moved it as much as we would have liked. No, there's no smoking gun. There's no clear-cut evidence. But and I know a lot of ufologists, a lot of people who've been following the subject for years are sort of pulling their hair out and saying like, but we know there is more evidence out there. We know it exists. Just show it to us. But I don't think that's the way they can work when they're talking about the general public. While ufologists form part of the general public, most of the general public don't have the same conviction about UFOs that visiting us, about non-human intelligences, that those of us who analyse the subject do. And that shock, that change needs to be very, very carefully managed. So I think it's being walked forward very, very slowly. But I think we are seeing that needle shifting. And each tranche shifts it a bit further and a bit further and a bit further.
But aren't they walking it forward so slowly that people, when the next tranche comes out, people are just going to start saying, well, actually, there's probably nothing in there that I haven't already seen. Just more lights in the sky. Give that one. Let me know when you've actually got something different.
Do you know? Yes, absolutely.
Are they trying to bore us bore us into going away?
Kind of. So this is my Stu's theory here. But I used to work in the automotive industry, and one of the things I worked on was change management, and how you implement, sometimes massive changes across a workforce. Might be a change in the way they're working, or a change to working hours, or something like that. what you try and do to avoid resistance is you do it so subtly and gradually that people are just so used to it by the time the change actually has happened that they don't even notice it. That's kind of the aim, that's the goal. So here we are in 2026, the US government are releasing UFO files that state over and over and over again that there are things in the sky, objects, manoeuvring in a way that appears to have intelligent control behind them, manoeuvring with abilities that our technology can't touch.
Are they actually saying that? The US government are saying...
They're not saying it directly, but when you read the report and it says, here is how it manoeuvred, and, it's clear that it must be under intelligent control by the way it's manoeuvred. When they're talking about these objects reacting to them, for example. So they're not saying, oh, they're definitely under intelligent control, but when they say it's reacting, that is intelligent control. There's no other way of looking at it. So they're saying it without blatantly saying it. But if they keep on doing that, it can get to the point whereby they can say, oh yeah, and these things are under intelligent control. And we're going to be so used to it, you use the word bored, we will be so bored of hearing that statement, just not via that statement, that when the statement comes, we won't notice. And yet we are to that point. We're getting bored almost. I mean, I'm not, but people, there are people who are bored of seeing these files coming out. Yeah. Now, I think, 20 years ago, the idea of any government releasing UFO files was just absolutely ridiculous. So I think yes, it's definitely moving the needle.
Do you think this might just be peculiar to this administration that kind of needs distractions?
Yes.
From other things, and that actually, when this regime eventually comes to an end, the shutters will come back down again, and they'll say, "That's it. That's all we got. We're not releasing. There's nothing else."
I think yes, you're absolutely right. I think if it weren't for if it wasn't Trump, this would not be happening. I think in part it is definitely to distract, whether that's to distract from Epstein files or Iran or both.
Is it a distraction? Because I would have thought if someone had said, "Mr. President, I know we're under a lot of pressure over this war and these files, but I think if we produce these files on UFOs, that people will be more interested in that." Well, only a small number of people are actually going to be that interested, aren't they? I mean, when the first file came out, there was quite a lot of general interest, but as these Pursue files come out, I can't imagine. There's lots of people forgetting all about all the other things they're interested in and saying, "Oh yeah, there's something going on here."
Well, no, I mean nobody's sort of forgetting about these other things, but it does give an additional topic to discuss.
Yeah,
so some people have said that Iran was to distract from the Epstein files, that the UFO files are to distract from Iran, and that's very much Trump's way. Is just kind of scattergun approach. Here's all these things, and because you can only talk about one thing at a time. And especially the way the press and media work, they will focus on the latest thing. Epstein files, that's ancient history. They won't be focusing on that. The media, the public, that's a different matter, but the media in particular, it's about what they're focusing on, I would say. So yeah, absolutely. But I'm reminded of the phrase, only Nixon could go to China.
Yeah.
And to be honest, only I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. Maverick president like Trump could achieve this.
Well, I think it's a similar thing to we once had a Home Secretary, when we had the Conservative government, we had Ken Clarke, who came out and said, well, actually, a lot of people who we're putting in prison really don't belong in prison. They're not able to benefit from any of the rehabilitation programs or any of the training programs. They're only there for a few weeks. It does nobody any good, and it costs us a lot of money, and basically all it does is expose them to more criminality. So we think there should be alternatives to a custodial sentence. And he later said, yeah, if a left-wing politician had come up with that idea, he would have immediately been blasted by the media saying, oh, you're just soft on crime, you just want to let these criminals out and whatever. But because he was a Conservative and part of a party that was very strong on law and order, people listened to him objectively. And I think it's the same with Nixon. He could go to China because he was sort of going there as from a position of strength. Yeah, we're going to talk to the Chinese, but I'm not. I'm not a commie. I'm not going there because I like their system.
Well, that's it. And Trump is enough of a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, like you wake up and you don't know what wacky, outlandish thing Trump's going to do next.
Mm.
For him to be the one behind these releasing of files. Now, I don't think for one moment that we're getting to see the full picture with the files. I think there is far more incriminating stuff still being kept from us. But like I say, I do think disclosure has to be walked forward. And to be honest, I can see why.
Interesting your use of the word incriminating. Is there something that people could be in trouble over?
Yes, absolutely. So there have been cases where people have whistleblowers who've been killed in the past. The handing over. So here's one of the big issues that we have with these Pursue files. They don't include files from private companies. So your likes of Lockheed Martin, Bigelow Aerospace, companies that have been given, crash sources in order to reverse engineer them. These are companies, so that would be illegal. First of all, for a government to just give a private company, here you go, here's all this like massive technology, and we've looked after you, so you look after us, kind of thing. Because imagine if the US government announced that tomorrow, said yes, like back in 1948, we gave Lockheed Martin a crash saucer from Roswell. Lockheed Martin's stock would be massively influenced by that. And every competitor to Lockheed Martin could then sue the government.
Okay.
So they're not going to announce that, not without massive amounts of immunities being granted.
Isn't there also an ideological argument that Republicans especially, well, Democrats as well, will claim that the free market is the best way to do anything because that's what creates innovation, and that's how we become the most technologically advanced society in the world. And it doesn't really sit very well when you point out, well, actually all these technologies, pretty much all the technology in your iPhone, for instance, was developed by governments.
Yeah.
And it was private corporations that used that technology to create products.
Yeah.
So they don't really want to say, well, no, it's actually governments create all this. They do all the research, all the expensive research.
And you're absolutely right, but using that as a defence, like, well, private companies are best placed, capitalism, all the rest of it. So what you say, to do it fairly, is you say, well, okay, we have a crashed flying saucer. All these companies can now bid for it. Then bid for the contract to reverse engineer it. That's how capitalism works. So again, they can't really use that as an argument. They've given this away. obviously for favours in return, but what favours? What, how have various governments benefited from this as well under the table? So I don't think we're about to see anything like that, unfortunately. But yeah, incriminating. Yeah, there's been a lot of dodgy dealings and murders. And certainly that we're seeing cases, modern day cases, where people's careers have been destroyed, where they've been slandered and they've had the families destroyed simply because they've come forward. I know you're not a fan of David Grush, but the fact that just after he comes out as a whistleblower he sat down in Congress, but he sits there in Congress and says what he can say, what he's cleared to say, and shortly after, his medical files get leaked, showing that he has post-traumatic stress. So they'll go, oh, look, he's got mental health problems. His medical files got leaked just after that. You can't tell me that's not a response.
No.
So yes, I say incriminating, and I mean incriminating because there is a lot of illegality behind all this.
But that kind of stuff's not going to come out in the files. They're not going to say, well, actually, so-and-so was right when he said he saw this, and yeah, so we well, it was my predecessor, actually. I wouldn't have done it, but my predecessor had him killed, and my predecessor, of course, is now dead, so beyond the law. But yes, I condemn that decision. That was the wrong thing to do. But yeah, here it is. Here's the evidence.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's why I say, there are a lot of incriminating things that haven't come to light and are not going to come to light. And I think we as ufologists just have to accept we will never hear the full truth. We'll never get it confirmed. But if we get the simple fact that, we are not alone in the universe as an intelligent species, if that comes out, if the fact that we are being visited, interacted with by these non-human intelligence, I think, you've got to accept the win and just, say, well, okay, but the rest of it. But that said, so one of the key files, so I want to talk about some of the files.
Okay.
One of the key files that jumped out at me, we'll talk about the videos in a bit because they're quite interesting, but I've found actually in the files themselves, there's DOW UAP D094. Now this is analysis of flying object incidents in the United States and Air Intelligence Study number 203. So this is coming back to 1949. Just checking my notes. Yes, 1949. What this report says, I mean, it's a long report. I'm not going to go into it all, but it's an official intelligence document that shows that the phenomenon cannot simply be dismissed as mass hallucination, fabrication, or ordinary misidentification. In 1949, this report says we cannot dismiss it for these reasons. However, what was happening in 1949, what was happening throughout the 50s and the 60s, the moment anybody starts talking about UFOs, oh, they're a nutcase. And the government have had an active disinformation. They've had several active disinformation campaigns. That's actually mentioned in the files as well in Tranche 4, that there's been an active disinformation campaign. So we're definitely getting a shift where we've gone from anybody who talks about aliens is an absolute nutcase to going back, to 1949 and before. What's that? Nearly 46, 80, nearly 80 years. The government has been taking this seriously. The government has been researching it, and every time they have ridiculed anyone, ruined their career, and that's happened a lot, particularly in the science industries, Yeah, they have acted, I think, criminally. Now, we're not going to be able to hold them to account on it, and, like I say, we just have to accept that. But boy, is it vindication for those of us who've had actual ridicule.
It kind of is, if they say they've actively been discrediting people, rather than saying, for instance, well, the scientist observed this phenomenon, he didn't know what it was, but he decided it was a flying saucer from another planet without sufficient evidence. Well, yeah, he's being unscientific, and he's discredited himself. He's filled in the gaps with whatever he happens to believe in, largely probably influenced by what he's seen at the cinema or on television.
But what you're talking about is scientists being faced with the phenomenon, saying there are various possibilities. If they indicate that one of those possibilities might be a non-human intelligence, they don't even have to say, it's the main possibility. They don't even have to give it any serious validation. Just the fact of mentioning it as a possibility it's ruined careers.
But aren't they really just playing guessing games still, which is unscientific? You've seen something in the sky, you don't know what it is.
That's what science is. You come up with a hypothesis.
Yeah.
You say, what can I imagine this thing that we don't understand might be? And, it's how gravity works. So, well, we think, gravity might be the centrifugal force of the Earth, pulling things in. I'm probably getting my science wrong with that, but, you imagine what it might be, then you test it. And I forget which way around it is. Do you get theory first and then hypothesis? Or hypothesis and then theory?
Theory is what you end up with. So
theory is what you end up with.
Theory
then
is the highest level of scientific knowledge. You can say it's like the theory of gravity, the theory of flight.
Well, no, because you can go to proof beyond that. If you can prove your theory, it's no longer a theory.
No, if you prove your hypothesis, then it's accepted scientific theory. But what you can't say in the world of science is, right, that's it. We now know everything about this subject. That no more knowledge will ever be acquired about this. There will never be a change of view. We'll never have new knowledge. And that's why it just has to stay a theory. You can't.
I feel that there must be, like, for example, the fact we are made of cells.
That's cell theory.
That's not a theory.
No, but we also can't say, well, yes, we know everything there is to know about ourselves, and that there can never be any new knowledge about it.
No,
because if you go beyond theory, then you're kind of shutting the door to any possible future discovery. As I understand it, I'm not a scientist, but that's what. But yeah, you start up, you observe something, you wonder about it, you form
that's your hypothesis.
You form a hypothesis. You set up an experiment to see if it's a controlled experiment, and of course, what you're trying to do is disprove your hypothesis. You're crash testing it. You're putting in all these other factors so that eventually you arrive at a position where you can say, well, yes, at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, at sea level, water will freeze. At 212 Fahrenheit, it will boil at sea level. If you go up higher, that temperature comes down. So let's have centigrade and say, well, yeah, we'll call it 0 where it freezes and 100 where it boils, and that makes it all much easier. That's what we do in Europe. Americans haven't quite it hasn't caught on over there, this idea. They stick with Fahrenheit.
So to come on to the whole, like people's careers being ruined thing. So imagine yourself, you're a meteorologist, you're a weather expert, Neil, and you are doing some weather observations, and you notice, you see a triangular object in the sky hovering, and then you see it shoot off. And as a meteorologist, you say, well, I observed this phenomenon, and you're out of a job.
I mean,
That's happened. It's happened so much.
Yeah, that must be the thing when someone just quite innocently says, "I observed this thing in the sky," and immediately the supervisor saying, "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!"
There's a very good reason why pilots to this day do not report publicly the UAP that they have seen. Some do. Some brave people do. And we're getting much better at it now because of the changes that have been happening, because UAP have been discussed in Congress. And because it's now the whole subject is being taken far more seriously, the stigma that goes with it is lessening all the time. But look, we were talking recently with Roy Teague, the author of Close Encounters of the Police Kind, and he was talking about the stigma that police have encountered. Well, the only reason he can write this book now today, I'm convinced, is because that stigma has eased to the point that people are more comfortable coming forward. But that stigma still exists.
It was an interesting, if Roy's listening, it was an interesting double-edged sword. That the premise of the book was, these people are police officers. They're trained observers. They're trained to observe and report objectively in a structured manner, so their reports are likely to be more credible. But on the other hand, they exist in an environment where they're more likely to face ridicule.
Yeah.
Or punishment for saying things that don't fit the narrative.
Absolutely. And, I think the emergency services, very much the same with the military, suffer a degree. The kind of the machismo, I mean, you'll know this yourself, having worked in the military, the toxic machismo, I want to call it, that exists, means that, the moment you start talking about anything like, you are going to get horrendous ridicule. But like I say, it's getting better and it's improving. But we've still got a long way to go. Way to go. Right, shall we look at some files then?
Yes, let's.
So let's start with the video, because the videos are sexier. I think the videos are less important in this tranche. But videos, did any of the videos jump out at you?
No, I have to say, I thought that, it's. I can't see anything here that I haven't seen before. It's a light moving around. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
And I think often when you're watching the videos, there's a lack of context, that you don't really know how far away this is or where it's filmed from, or you just got a light moving around.
100% behind you on that. There is so much redacted information, and I feel certain that redacting the wind speed, for example, if that's showing on screen, why are they redacting the wind speed? Like that's really important. There's one that looks kind of like a balloon. It's got like a bulbous top and then a line down and then something else underneath, but it appears to be whizzing through the sky at an enormous rate. Well, knowing the wind speed, knowing the wind direction, that would tell us a lot about that, because if it was a massive wind speed and the wind was going in the exact same direction, then you can say, okay, that's probably a balloon. If the wind speed, for example, is going the opposite direction, though, that makes it far more interesting. So I think they're redacting far too much information on these videos.
Maybe it is secrecy for... It just reminded me of a story of someone I knew who went to Russia in the days of the Soviet Union. They're staying in a hotel, and just before they retired to bed at night, they went to reception. He's asked the receptionist, "So, do you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow?" And the receptionist was quite terse and said, "Well, you'll be able to see that if you just look out your window tomorrow morning." And sort of sent him away with a flea in his ear. And he mentioned it to someone later. He said, no, the weather forecast is a military secret in the Soviet Union. It's this idea of, clear blue skies sending the bombers. Yeah, we're not going to tell anyone what the weather's going to be like. So he was really on thin ice, and what would for us would be a really innocent question.
Wow.
Is it going to rain tomorrow?
But then, is it really paranoia if they are talking about you?
Yeah. So, redacting the wind speed.
Yeah. But there's all kinds of information. I get, I understand national security and not wanting to reveal what technology is available, like what technological level some of this information has been recorded by. But yeah, I don't see redacting every scrap of information on the screen as being necessary at all.
It shows you're hiding something, which if you want to feed a conspiracy theory, just hide some seemingly trivial piece of information and people will fill in the gaps. That's how conspiracies start. So this object you were talking about is like the globe with a line through it.
Yeah.
Did they sort of superimpose their own lines on the object because it was indistinct? Did they?
No, this was it's a small object. It's inside the kind of, you have the lock-on box, don't you? Graphic. Yeah. No, it's inside that. It appears to be one. Just it looks like a. How do I describe it? Like a static thing. It's not like a piece of string with something dangling underneath. It's more, I'll put it on screen for viewers to see. Because
I thought I saw one that looked like that, and it looked like they'd actually somehow graphically drawn the outline of it so that we could see it better. And it just looked like, do you remember that old game of meteorites where you have these spacecraft and meteorites and you have to shoot the meteor? But there was just line drawings of
I do. Vector graphics is the technical term.
Is that what it's called? Vector graphics. That was a great game. It used up about 1 kilobyte on my computer playing
that. This is a filled-in object that I'm talking about. I can't remember the file number off the top of my head. Again, I'll put that on the screen for viewers to have a look at it.
But are there instances where, in an attempt to sort of highlight what they're seeing, they've added something graphical to it and therefore made what they're seeing look artificial?
Well, interestingly, there are, and again, off the top of my head, I can't remember which file it was now, but there is an example of a file where they say it has been adjusted, but it's been released in the state that it's been received.
Okay.
So they have made a point of saying that when that's happened.
Okay.
To be honest, I found the video files underwhelming. I mean, I think it's really good and amazing. Bear in mind, like the 2017, we had the Go Fast, Tic Tac, and the Tumblr videos come out. Much of these videos are no better than that, but at the same time, how groundbreaking they were. It was incredible that we got to see those. So I think we've come a long way in a short amount of time for us to be saying, there's nothing really exciting. The fact that they exist is incredibly exciting.
It kind of is, but it's the fact that what we saw 8 or 9 years ago, and we're still seeing very similar stuff now. So, is this really all they've got? And they're not.
You and I might be ready for them to wheel out the bodies and the actual craft, but I think the vast majority of the public isn't ready for that yet. We've a way to go yet for that. And some of the videos have been getting a lot of interest on the internet in particular. One of the key ones is there's one that looks like a star-shaped element. I can't rule out that that's just an artifact, a refraction in the lens or something of that nature. So that one didn't interest me too much. But the one that really did is DOW UAP PR116. Now, this is an object just sort of sitting in the sky, and the camera, I'm guessing it's FLIR, zooms up on it, and it shows a couple of either hot spots or cold spots. So with FLIR, dark means either cold or hot, and white is the opposite.
So
but
that means
can
cold
be
or
either
the opposite.
way.
Cold or dark means cold or hot, and white's the opposite.
Well, white, yeah. So if dark is cold, white is hot. But if dark is hot, white is cold, and you can switch FLIR either way.
That seems straightforward enough. No scope for confusion there.
Well, normally you get the information saying which way it is.
Yeah.
But that's been redacted. So we don't know looking at it which way round it is, but there we go. But you've got this object, most of it's dark. As it zooms in, as the camera sort of zooms into it, you get a couple of white spots on it. But it looks like a kind of real interest. Some people have said it looks like a brain. I don't see that myself, but it's just this weirdly shaped mass just sitting in the sky. But it definitely, there are a few points, a few frames where it seems to really capture structure to it. And it looks like something out of a UFO movie, you know.
Exactly what you expected.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, and I mean, it's not a dish, it's not an orb, it's not a triangle, it's something far more bizarre. But that one really, really caught my interest.
So, do you think it would be more credible if eventually we saw a UFO, and it looked exactly like it had come out of a 1950s movie, and Ed Wood, flying hubcaps or something? Would that make it more or less credible? Yeah, that sort of thing. Is that what?
I think one of the things we've got to bear in mind is how much. It's a case of art imitating life rather than life imitating art. I think that you look at movies like Forbidden Planet, the old Leslie Nielsen 1950s movie, where they're in a big flying saucer. It's a humanity. It's a big spaceship, but it's a flying saucer. The reason we've got that imagery in the first place is because of real life reports. Kenneth Arnold, one of the earliest sort of UFO witnesses, he talked about sort of saucers, or they talked about saucers skipping, and that was the movement that these craft displayed. So we use saucers now for the shape, but actually he was describing the motion. But yeah, the idea of flying saucers, excuse me, comes from real life witnesses. And that's what Hollywood has taken and run with.
Because one thing I suppose it's only really just occurred to me that with our level of technology, something that is optimized for flying in our atmosphere is not necessarily optimized for flying through space. That when we send spacecraft deep into space, like the Voyager craft, we pretty much have to transport them up into orbit in one craft and then put them together and then send them off from there. So you've got all these arrays of solar panels and aerials and whatever, which are great for a spacecraft that's not going to encounter any friction. But if that was to enter our atmosphere, it wouldn't stand a chance. So maybe is that why UFOs keep crashing? Because they're optimized for space travel. They suddenly come into our atmosphere.
Well, there are a couple of points there to address. One is that the current level of thinking is that what these craft do is actually create a bubble around themselves, of basically space-time bubble. So they're working on a different space-time factor. So for them, we see a ship zipping off suddenly, instant acceleration that'd kill anybody inside. But inside the bubble, it's actually moving much more slowly.
Okay.
So that's one thing. So if that's the case, it wouldn't matter what shape the vehicle itself was. Because you're sitting outside of space-time, basically. You wouldn't have friction. You wouldn't have, air resistance or anything like that.
Is this something that's being scientifically studied, or is this purely...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And in fact, NASA is now talking about... theoretically, on paper, warp technologies that would create a warp bubble, like add a Star Trek, a warp bubble around the craft, and that would enable faster than light travel. NASA's talking about. There's a scientist called Alcubierre who's been working on this for a number of years now, and basically has theoretically on paper. Yeah, he's worked out a way of doing it. Now, the energy involved in creating this is way beyond our publicly known abilities. He says carefully, because again, if reverse engineered technology, it might be that we have 0 point energy available to us, but kind of the fossil fuel industries might not be happy about that being released.
No, I mean they're losing their crap
oil and gas
over wind and solar.
Exactly.
Something new and extraterrestrial.
Exactly that. So that's one part of it. But when you think as well, these vehicles, they are transmedia. You said yourself earlier on, transmedium devices. So they're going from space to atmosphere to water seamlessly, without missing a beat, without changing speed or anything. There's nothing we've got that can do that.
Apart from a spot of light.
There you go. Well, even light would be refracted in water.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was the only video that jumped out at me anyway, was PR116 from the Department of War. Now, documents. Did you have a chance to sort of pick out any documents that
I didn't
sang to you?
So.
No worries. So I've picked out 3 of the ones available that I felt really do move the needle. And one that I think is like an honourable mention on my part. So the first one is the one I mentioned earlier, DOW UAP D094, the analysis of flying object incidents in the United States, Air Intelligence Study number 203 from 1949. And like I said earlier, it's because you've got intelligence, official intelligence saying we can't say that this was hallucination, or we can't explain this phenomenon. So I think that is really important. The second one is from a bit more recent, 2015. This is one of the Department of Energy files, so DOE UAP D005. This is a Pantex Unidentified Object Incident Report, like I say, from 2015. It's interesting because it combines several different forms of observation and a highly secure nuclear weapons facility. So it was tracked using ground surveillance radar, only travelling at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Security personnel confirmed it visually. They followed it by vehicle for several miles. 2 officers observed it through binoculars, reporting no sound and no visible propulsion system. And the report says it appeared to alter direction and increase speed whilst being followed. So again, that's reacting. This is where what I'm calling under intelligent control. If it's responding to something that we're doing,
Peering to
we're following it, so it speeds up It appears, yeah. I mean, we're not, I'm not claiming to have any answers or anything like that. But, again, it's that hypothesizing.
Because, I mean, what you said would fit a balloon travelling at that kind of speed, and you go and chase it and realise, actually it's going faster than we realised, or maybe it's accelerated and now it's changed direction, or maybe the wind's changed, or,
You're absolutely right. But ground surveillance radar, security personnel confirming visually and following it, and 2 officers watching it through binoculars. I feel comfortable if it was a balloon, somebody would have been able to identify that. I kind of suspect. Additional officers, so this is on top of those, tracked it for 3 to 5 minutes using a CROWS, CROWS, don't know what that stands for, remotely operated camera system, reportedly from approximately 75 to 100 metres away. It was estimated to be 100 to 200 feet above the ground and roughly 4 feet tall by 2 feet wide. So, radar tracks, tower video, eyewitness statements, and enhanced imagery from Sandia National Laboratories were all assembled, and the evidence was then passed to the FBI, who have done their own investigations and can't explain it away. Again, I feel if that was something mundane like a balloon, that would have been picked up. And I just think, all those things together. It was described as roughly diamond-shaped in appearance. Yeah.
Because
so that was my second pick.
if you work for NASA or the CIA or FBI or any whatever agency, and you're going to be tasked with finding an explanation for this, how can you just explain this away?
Yeah.
And if you can, you will, won't you? You'll say, "Oh, well, it's probably just this or probably just that." And
let's not forget, 2015, the atmosphere, the culture was still very much, you do not talk about UAP. Career-ending stuff.
Yeah. So
absolutely, you're not wrong at all. You come up with an explanation. The motivation is to make something up rather than say, we can't explain this. Yeah. The other one I want to talk about is also from 1949. And again, this is a Department of Energy report, DOE UAP D004. This was a conference, it's basically the minutes from the conference on aerial phenomena from Los Alamos. So again, this ties in the relationship that we see over and over again in ufology, tying in UAPs with nuclear sites. And there are so many reports of UAPs around nuclear sites. Switching nuclear weapons off, switching them on.
So, in 1949, am I correct in thinking that only the United States had nuclear weapons in 1949? No one else had developed them yet, and no one had developed civilian nuclear power stations in 1949. Is that?
I don't know, is the honest answer.
I mean, I think that
sounds right.
I mean, I know the Soviet Union developed atomic bombs soon after the Second World War, but I don't know if they'd done it by 1949. I think Britain got nuclear weapons in the 1950s, or the late 1950s. France and China got them in, I know, 1964. It was when France and China got them.
Yeah, it sounds right. I wouldn't like to swear to it, though. Maybe one of our viewers can drop a comment in below and let us know.
Just Google it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Google it and be a hero. So what this Los Alamos... and again, this is something that within ufology, this connection between UAP and nuclear, a lot of claims have been made that that's a recent addition, that it's only a fairly new thing. Well, this shows that it actually goes back to 1949. So you had senior military personnel, the AEC, the FBI, and prominent nuclear scientists all discussing UAP around atomic facilities in this report.
Yeah, I was going to say, how far away is Los Alamos from places like Roswell or Area 51? I mean, to us it seems quite close, but it's...
In American terms, not that far. To us in the... But then, you know, to us in the UK...
It would take you half the day to drive it. It's miles away.
To us, that's a long way. To Americans, not so much. Yeah.
Not as far as an American might go for a night out.
Yeah. Yeah, so in particular in this report, there's talk about sightings of green fireballs around the sites. A lot of explanations were sort of attempted to be given for the meteorites, things like that, but there was talk about how they travelled vertically. Horizontally. Not vertically. Vertically, yeah, meteorite, I'll do that. But horizontally, which meteorites don't do, they come down, generally speaking. Obviously, in 1949, they couldn't give any specific answers, but the fact that they were talking about it seriously, while at the same time discrediting people, ridiculing people, It is a lot of vindication, I feel, in these files being released. The only other one I wanted to mention is from 2019, DOW UAP D090. This is what's called the Range Fowler Report. So an observer with 28 years of United States Air Force and Navy experience reported a small object travelling rapidly in the opposite direction. They tracked it for about 10 to 15 seconds and then recorded it. A post-flight examination apparently suggested a rectangular shape, and other experienced personnel, more experienced than the pilot themselves, were unable to identify it. I think it's a really good, and again, it comes back to that interview we did with Roy Teague. I think pilots make very good, reliable witnesses because, not so much because they're trained in observation, but, because they have to have good observancy skills. And someone with 28 years experience, if they say, I have not seen anything like this before, I think we need to pay attention to that. Especially rectangular, that kind of rules out your balloons and doesn't necessarily rule out drones, but it rules out most things.
People like pilots and police officers, I think being imaginative is regarded as a negative trait, isn't it? It's more likely to affect your judgment and make you more likely to invent. And so anything that indicates you might be using your imagination, like saying, I spotted a UFO, is going to be a black mark against you.
Exactly, which is why so many people have not come forward when they have seen things, legitimately seen things, or they've not done so publicly. Absolutely. So there we go. I'm interested does any of this sort of that I've talked about with you, does any of that move the needle for you at all?
Not really. I'm still in the kind of, I'm certainly not in the position of saying it's all a load of old rubbish, there's nothing to it. There's definitely stuff out there that we can't explain. There's definitely someone trying to cover things up. But I'm still at the... It's still that we don't know what it is phase for me, which is, I suppose, considerably more sympathetic than someone who says, no, you didn't see anything at all.
Yeah.
And we're gonna send you to the loony bin.
Just to give you a comparison, I mean, I'm at the stage, I don't know what it is. I have hypotheses about it, I will talk about non-human intelligence because that's what I believe. I don't know it, I believe it. And I think people can get very emotionally attached to the things that they believe, and sometimes they will state them as fact. And that can be quite dangerous.
Which you're bound to do if you see something. I mean, as humans, we like stories. We don't like to not know.
Yeah.
I mean, we have religion to invent because we need stories about what happens after you die. We just can't say, well, we don't know. It's going to happen to all of us eventually, but we don't know what that is or what that means. Apart from we won't be here anymore. So you need it. There was one sort of, as you were talking, it reminded me of a story we covered some time ago, where a jellyfish-shaped UFO was seen, I think, over Iraq.
Yeah,
over a base in Iraq. And more recently, there's a pilot, an American pilot, I think a colonel rank, who's distinguished himself in the current conflict by being shot down twice. Once by friendly fire over Kuwait, and then once over central Iran, which entailed this massive rescue mission and the loss of lots of planes and whatever. But before he went down, he reported seeing drones, dozens and dozens of drones, all flying together in a sort of jellyfish shape, all coordinated, with smaller drones making the tentacles. And basically what he described it as an aerial minefield, this vast thing that if you fly into that, you're screwed. Yeah, it just made me think of, we've talked about jellyfish-shaped UFOs before, and suddenly we see one, and actually he's although they have since said, well, he is suffering from PTSD and concussion, and,
see, that's that's where I start to get twitchy when things like that come out. It's like, are you trying to discredit this person?
Yeah.
There we go. Not you. I'm saying the powers that to be.
Yes, he claimed he saw a giant sort of jellyfish shape in the sky, and he's currently receiving treatment for concussion and PTSD.
Exactly.
So that's the end of that story.
Yeah, and sadly it probably is. Well, coming up to the end of this episode, I really want to hear from our listeners and viewers. What videos stood out for you in Tranche 4? What files stood out for you in Tranche 4? Do you think it moves the needle, or is it just more of a nothing burger, as so many people are saying? I mean, I disagree. I think it's definitely something. It's not bodies or craft being wheeled out, but it is definitely something. But feel free to disagree, or just stick with Neil and say,
really, this again? We've seen this before, haven't we? Is this really all they've got?
We have indeed. Now, speaking of our listeners, we've been saying since we came back as Aliens Explored, we want to hear questions from our listeners and viewers, and we got some great questions in for this week. Yes. So the first one is from Scott C, and it says, "Hi Stu and Neil, really happy to see Aliens Explored is back. I've been listening since the early days and have missed your blend of scepticism and belief." Well, thank you, Scott. Question for Neil, one for you. What kind of evidence would you personally need to see before you became convinced that at least some UFO sightings involve something genuinely non-human? And that's from Scott.
That's a very good question. It goes right to the heart of what I am all about. I mean, I suppose I'd start from what I do believe. Yes, of course I believe that there is life elsewhere in the universe. The basic building blocks of life, nitrogen, carbon and such, are the most common elements out there. There are billions of star systems, billions of planets, trillions of planets probably. There's almost certainly life elsewhere in the galaxy. I also believe, I mean, this is my cobbling together of what I know about quantum science and things like that. I understand that time isn't linear. We just experience it that way, and that we move through dimensions, and that what we perceive as our reality is really just energy vibrating at a certain frequency. So we're really not that much more substantial than an AM radio station, which, you know, as you travel further away from the transmitter, you might start getting interference from another radio station, and those are areas that we call UFO hotspots or haunted areas. That's where you start seeing images that might be in another dimension, or you yourself might appear in someone else's dimension as some kind of spectral form. So I'm perfectly prepared to accept that, and the things that we're seeing in the sky, yeah, I'm sure some of them have a more mundane explanation. They are human created. I'm more inclined to believe that a lot of these things are actually natural phenomena that we don't quite understand yet, that at some point some scientists are going to say, well, this causes this, which causes this, and we didn't know this before, and that's what causes orbs to appear in the sky. Wasn't there something about when quartz comes under pressure deep under the ground, you get lights in the sky? There were supposedly orbs in the sky before the Boxing Day tsunami back in 2005, I think it was. That sort of thing. But what I would actually need to see to believe that it was non-human, I mean, maybe I wouldn't go as far as Neil deGrasse Tyson and say, show me the spaceship. But I certainly need to see a lot more than a few more grainy videos of lights moving around in the sky. I need something more substantial. I need to see evidence backed up, testimony backed up by evidence. So testimony on its own isn't enough. These videos of stuff we can't really make out what it is isn't enough. I need some combination of the two that would make for a compelling story, that will make it very difficult to say, no, this is just something else. I think I need to see something that can't be explained away, or where you can just say, well, we don't know what it is.
Would it matter where the evidence, like where the testimony came from? So say, for example, Donald Trump stands up at a lectern and says, yep, there is a non-human intelligence and we've been trying to contact it, or it's been visiting for so long, and then that's backed up. The Pope then stands there in Vatican and says, yep, what Donald is saying is absolutely true. And then our Prime Minister, whoever that might be at the time,
I think with all politicians, and this is just generally good practice for anyone who's the least bit media savvy, when a politician tells you something, ask yourself why they're telling you this. What's their motivation? What else is going on? What are they not telling you about? I mean, one that springs to mind was Brigadier General Haim Eshed, who's a brigadier general in the Israeli Defense Force and a scientist. He's credited as being the father of the Israeli space program. He was the guy who put their satellites into orbit. He's also claimed, I think, was it during Trump version 1, he claimed that Donald Trump had made contact with the Intergalactic Federation, and that we will be joining sooner. I don't believe that for a minute.
Okay,
that's going way too far too quickly for me. I need to see a lot of evidence in support of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so yeah, it would depend on who said it. It would have to be from a credible source, and all. But I say backed up with evidence, testimony from someone I trust, and with evidence.
And with evidence, then would video footage. Again, if Donald Trump stands at his lectern and says, yeah, it's all true, NHI, all the rest of it, craft, reverse engineered, here's a video from, Area 51 of the vehicle being flown. And the show video, would that convince you?
Yeah, something I've never really seen is evidence of anything being reversed engineered, crashed alien spaceship technology. All our advancements in technology seem to be very, very human. In the West, pretty much the only technological development that's going on, the only innovation is in AI. I suspect it's different in China where they're doing all sorts of things, but AI seems to be is there any evidence of an alien intervention there, or is it we're basically just creating Google with predictive text that can make it looks like the computer's talking?
That claim AI is reverse engineered, also fiber optic, microchips, all reverse engineered.
Teflon, is that something that came out of the space program, didn't it?
I'm sure somebody's theorised that at some point.
I mean, we created it for our own spacecraft, but did we find it on a crashed alien spacecraft?
Maybe. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's hard to say what I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be severely tested for me to accept. Yes, this is. We are being visited, and some of these things are otherworldly in origin and intelligent.
Okay, good answer. Thank you to Scott for putting the question in.
Right, so what have we got next? A question from Maya, or Maya, am I pronouncing it right? Maya B. Hi, Stu and Neil. I've been enjoying the relaunch of Aliens Explored and particularly like the way you approach the subject from different perspectives. It makes the discussions feel balanced without losing the sense of mystery that makes the topic so interesting. Thank you, Maya. That's praise against to the rooftops there. My question is for Stu. Do you think your belief in the phenomenon ever makes you more likely to accept a case than the evidence really justifies? I'd be interested to hear how you guard against confirmation bias while still remaining open-minded about cases that do not have a straightforward explanation.
That's a fantastic question. Thank you, Maya. I think thank you anyway. That's
yeah.
And
she also says, question. Keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to hearing more episodes. So
brilliant.
So that's kind of the opposite of what I've just been asked.
It is in a lot of ways, isn't it? You know, how do I? So as a believer, am I more ready to accept? I like to think it's kind of a little bit what we were talking about earlier. I can separate I believe to I know. And I think understanding that difference is incredibly important. I see so many people, like particularly online in ufology, saying, I know for a fact that UFOs are real because I saw something in the sky. Well, okay, UFOs, an unidentified object, yes, that's real. There is a phenomena. That is accepted. People will make that jump to, and I know it's aliens because I couldn't explain what else it could be. No, that doesn't mean you know it's aliens. And I apologise now if I'm upsetting a lot of our viewers and listeners by saying that. But yeah, it's that difference between knowing something as a fact, having proof, and believing. And yes, I want to believe. I want it to be true. How do I guard against that? I look at it. You said it earlier about politicians, funnily enough, but I think, it's generally true. What are people's motivations for doing something? Is it going to benefit them in some way, making this claim, putting this thing out there? And I try and look at that. I do try and look at that. And I see so many people, and again, we mentioned earlier about David Grush. He has come forward as the whistleblower. It's one of the reasons why you and I why I disagree so fervently with you about him. He has come forward at his own expense, and I mean that in every way. His career is ruined by it, and he knew it would be before he even started.
Yeah, I mean,
his financial matters have been like absolutely decimated. He's not been. He's said all this.
I mean, my feeling about David Grush, I mean, I didn't say, well, I hate the guy or whatever, but I just thought he's kind of gone off half-cocked. He's gone and stood before Congress and said, well, yes, I've seen the evidence, but I can't show it to you. He's kind of gone into a gunfight empty-handed.
Because he has only ever talked about things that he has been authorised by the government to talk about.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, he's taken his oath to national security very, very seriously. And, of course, if he went beyond that and said the things that he has sort of not just hinted, but, you know, the things that he has said he knows about, if he gave direct information, he would end up in prison if he's lucky.
Mm.
You know, there's no two ways about that.
But it's not that he was told, you know, as your duty, Lieutenant, is to go in front of Congress and say this to them. That he's actually, it's not, he's not saying what he's been told to say. He's off his own back, he's gone and said what he's allowed to say.
Yes, because he believes that humanity has a right to know.
Mm.
Anyway, that's a total side topic.
I just think
we'll talk about David Grush again at some point.
Yeah.
I have no doubt whatsoever. So coming back to Maya's question, so how do I go? Do you know what? There are times when I fail at guarding against my own confirmation bias. I know there are, and I accept that. I try. I like I say, I'll look at people's motivations for doing things, and at the end of the day, just try and make a judgment call of, sensibly, like, could I back this up? Can I back this up?
Do you think maybe it's a question of degree with confirmation bias, that if you and I were both shown the same thing, both shown something that looked pretty compelling, that you would be prepared to accept it for what it was before I did, because you've got the belief that I haven't got? Yeah,
if we're shown a photograph and we're told, this is manufactured by a non-human intelligence, and it looks beyond what we can do as humans, I'd be more inclined to. I don't think I would just automatically go, oh, it's true then. Here it is, actual photo of a UFO. But I don't think I would do that.
We'd both be saying, well, what about this? Or could it be that? Or what about this or the other? It's...
Absolutely. I think, I think you and I do come at it in a very similar way in that regard. It's just I'm coming at it from I believe that this is true. I now want irrefutable proof that it's true.
You're willing to be persuaded, whereas I'm resistant to being persuaded.
Which is a good balance to have, I think.
Yeah.
A good balance to have. There we go. Yes, thank you, Maya. That was a great question, and I don't know. I feel bad that I kind of can't answer it properly. But do my best. Anyway, on to our last question for this episode then, from Daniel M. Hi, Stu and Neil. I've really been enjoying the new episodes of Aliens X, but everybody's been saying that. It's really nice. And I particularly like that you both come at the subject from different angles without the discussions becoming combative.
Oh, wait till Stu turns off the record, then the feathers fly.
Well, there's a podcast I listen to where they use the term disagree agreeably, and I like that. Yeah. I would nick that if it wasn't copyrighted. I don't know whose it is. Anyway, back to Daniel's question. This question is for both of us. If definitive proof of extraterrestrial intelligence were announced tomorrow, what do you think would actually change in ordinary people's day-to-day lives? There would obviously be enormous scientific and political consequences, but I sometimes wonder whether most people would still get up in the morning, go to work and carry on much as before. Thanks for continuing to explore these subjects in such an entertaining and thoughtful way. Look forward to hearing your views. Thank you, Daniel. So, kind of a day after disclosure, your average everyday person, what they're going to do?
Well, they always said that if it was announced that people would panic. But I always wondered, what would that panic actually look like? I mean, oh no, aliens have arrived. And you go running into the street going, and 5 minutes later you're still going, and then eventually you run out of breath and start getting tired. Okay, what do I do now? How do I keep panicking? We know that some people it will affect profoundly. We know that certain religious groups, whenever something has happened, they've been told that the end times are coming, or a meteorite or a comet appears in the sky and they all commit suicide, or they give away all their possessions, or that sort of thing. I think there'd be some of that. I think a lot of people would be to say, well, yeah, I always thought so. It's about time. I never thought they were going to tell us. I don't know. Would people say, well, what's the point anymore? Are we all... I mean, I think I'd be nervous. Are we talking a Close Encounters of the Third Kind kind of experience? Or are we talking War of the Worlds? Just let us put together our disintegrator beams and we'll get right back to you.
Yeah. And again, it's a fantastic question. Thank you, Daniel. I'm very much with you. I think you're going to have a wide mix of reactions, ranging from your doomsday cult type, mass unaliving selves reaction. Gosh, therapists will do very well out of it, I suspect.
Yeah.
And you will get... I think if this were to happen tomorrow, I still feel that we are being prepared. We, as a culture, as a society, humanity in general, is still being prepared and conditioned and readied. That's why we're having this slow drip, drip, drip of disclosure happening, is part of that readiness and that preparation to minimise any extreme reaction. But if it were to happen tomorrow, if catastrophic disclosure happens, as they call it, I think you'd have the extreme end on one side, your doomsday cultists. I think you'd have the other extreme where you'd get a lot of denial, people just absolutely refusing to believe it completely, not accepting it. People in the middle. Yeah, you'll get... The ufologists probably will be the ones getting up and going to work. I think you're going to get some people... a lot of people would instantly lose faith in their government all across the world.
Well, even more than they do now.
Involved or not. I mean... here in the UK, we're not having our government releasing UFO files or anything like that. But instantly we would go, well, of course, British government must have known about this all this time. Whether they do or not, we're going to say that. So I think, you'd end up with chaos. I think you'd end up with financial and political chaos. I think the stock markets would just crash overnight.
It would be the end of capitalism.
I don't think it would be the end of capitalism. I think it would be a glitch. Well, because it'd recover quite quickly. But yeah.
But politically, I mean, previously we've talked about a phenomenon called the filter. What scientists have said is that there is this filter on the development of any species, and what that filter is, that's where we reach, where our technological, our technology and our science far exceed our knowledge, and we end up destroying ourselves, either by destroying our environment, or through nuclear war. And Noam Chomsky says, we're doomed. I know he's a bit toxic now since he's mentioned the Epstein files, but he did say it's only a question of whether we die instantly in a nuclear war or die slowly through catastrophic climate change or pandemics or whatever. And they'll say, well, that's why it's unlikely that any civilization would have developed the means for intergalactic or interstellar travel, because they've got to get through that filter. They've got to somehow find a way of developing all that technology without destroying themselves. So any aliens that arrived here would be far superior just by virtue of having managed to get here. And the first thing they said was you need to cut this shit out. You can't afford to be burning up your planet like this. Look, here's an energy source. Use that. There we go. It's all sorted. You can stop drilling for oil. You can stop all this crap. You've got to stop all this war. You've got a planet where, you've got a system that's destroying the planet while not meeting the needs of most of the people on the planet. You've got people starving to death while food's being destroyed. Cut all this shit out. You need to stop all that. Otherwise, you're going to go extinct as a species. I think that would, maybe they would, a civilization that evidentially have gone through the filter themselves would make it their mission to get us through the filter. Yeah, I think it could be a hugely positive thing. That's what I'd like to think it was.
What if war as a concept is a uniquely human concept?
Yeah. Well, they don't understand what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they're just saying, what the fuck? No, you can't do that. Stop. Are you mental?
Would they, or would they just sit back and watch and try and understand us?
You're going to press that button and destroy a city and kill millions of people. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, that's a question we can ask here on Earth already.
I think there could be huge political consequences. I think they have to be positive because, the direction we're going in. Yeah, they could accept if the arrival of aliens made things worse. It's only accelerating the direction that we're already going in.
That's an absolutely fair point, but also aliens intervening for our benefit. I think that speaks a lot more to hope rather than evidence.
Yeah, it's the Day the Earth Stood Still, that fantastic 1950s movie that was not so well remade, but the guy basically.
Anyway,
I thought it was all right.
Anyway.
But he basically comes down and says, "You've got to cut this shit out. You just can't. You can't carry on like this.
Yeah.
And if you do, I'll teach you a lesson.
That's it.
You want to fight? I'll show you a fight."
That's it. Right. Well, Gort, it's been a fantastic episode. This gone on much longer than I expected, but hey, Pursue Files, Tranche 4. It's a big deal. I honestly, I'll keep fighting this corner. It is a big deal that it's happening at all. And hopefully, I mean, they're never saying, at no point have they said, and there will be another tranche. So hopefully there'll be a Tranche 5 and we might see more stuff from NASA, might see more meaningful stuff from NASA. But yeah, there we go. And thank you to everyone who's put in questions to us. We'd love to get more questions from you, so you can email us aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can ask us a question by putting a comment in below one of our videos on YouTube. However you like, really. Carrier pigeon, smoke signals, psychic. I don't know.
You can appear to us in a dream.
Yeah. That happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been lovely chatting with you, Neil, and until next time, viewers and listeners, keep watching the skies.
A pleasure as always, yeah. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.